Hello, today I'm going to be covering using Nearpod to create distance learning lessons. So what we're going to do is go ahead and open up our Nearpod. All teachers here at CDS should have a Nearpod account in their name of their Caraway Day School address. So if you select sign in as a teacher and just click on your Caraway Day School login, you should be able to gain access to Nearpod and all its paid features. So what we're going to do today is show you Nearpod and show you ways that you can use it to create lessons that can be used for distance learning for your students. Um, so you can use already existing lessons that you have. You can also use the library that Nearpod has. So it has some lessons in different disciplines as well as digital citizenship, college planning. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you a quick example of a lesson that I've created here. You will have the option of providing it live or student-paced. In this case, since it's distant learning, we're going to be using the student-paced lesson. Live would be if you were in a classroom providing to your students and you were in charge of changing the slides and going through the process. But here, since our students are pulling up this on their own time, we're going to go ahead and select the student-paced. So let me go ahead and just show you what that looks like here. We're just going to preview it. And this is a lesson that was created, actually was created using Google Slides and then imported to Nearpod, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead, you can just go through this presentation, you can insert videos, you can see I do have some checkpoints along the way. So in this case, I've asked them to draw a diagram of how money flows into and out of a bank, because previously we had just seen a video that described the process of how people deposit money into a bank and then how banks loan out that money to charge interest. So what I had them do is just go ahead and draw me a quick sketch to show that they understand the concept of how a bank works. And then I would just continue to go through this and add checkpoints along the way, since there isn't a teacher in the classroom. So you'd want to add quizzes. You can add web pages for resources. So in this case, I want them to use the compound interest calculator to calculate compound interest. So if I have a specific tool I want to direct them to, I can keep it within Nearpod. And I'm just going to continue to go through this assignment, and then they're going to be able to view this on their own. Here's another web page. And then at the end, you can ask open-ended questions as well. And all of these are kept recorded so that when you go back and view your lessons later, you'll see individual student responses to each of these questions, and you could grade these as an assignment as well. In addition, you can just provide the assignment, the lesson presentation without any of these checkpoints, and then just have a written assignment that the students have to turn in addition to after watching the Nearpod. So it can be done either way, whatever is most relevant to your discipline or to what you're currently teaching. You'll also notice that Nearpod does have, and that's a student paste. This is essentially how you would provide that code. So if you click on the student paste, you will receive a code and a copy of that code, and you can share that on Schoology. And then for a student, they don't have to have an account, they just need the code. So they would just take that code, put it into Nearpod, and then it pulls up the lesson. It's going to ask them for just to write their name, and then they would join this session, and now they're in control of how quickly or how slowly they go through this lesson. They can also add notes. So if you want them to take notes while they're going through this, you can have them do that as well. And then they would email them to themselves. So they would just go through this similar to how we did. They would watch the videos, you provide those checkpoints. So here is where students would use the tools to draw, and they would just go through this lesson just like they would if they were being taught it in classroom. So that's kind of the student view of things. And once we have that, there's also a lesson library. So let's say traditionally you've taught these lessons without any presentation software. You've just kind of gone on the board and you've presented. If you don't have any of those tools, Nearpod makes it pretty easy to search by standard, search by discipline. So if I wanted to look at high school math lessons, I could do this. If I wanted to pull in specific specific strands of the skills that I want my students to show, I can search here with the Nearpod, and these are all free to look at, to preview, and even edit. So if I look at this lesson and this is something I feel like would work for my students, then I can add it to my own library, and then once it's added here to my library, I can go in and edit this however I see fit. So I can add slides, I can subtract slides, I can change content on the slides. So I can use this as a starting point to build a lesson so that I don't have to start from scratch. So this is a good resource if you are scrambling to get content that is used for distance learning if you don't have that traditionally. So it's a great resource to use, and then you would have that code, and then you could provide that student code so that they would be able to go in and do this lesson. So there's plenty here, all based on the different strands of the different skills that you want your students to accomplish. So you can see, I mean, there's social studies, health, technology, math, language acquisition. There's plenty here. If for some reason you have a Google Slides presentation that you want to import into here, you can do that with an add-on. So let's say I want to take this debt assignment that I've just traditionally taught in a classroom using Google Slides that I've created. I can take this thing and I can go to the add-ons, and there's actually an add-on for Nearpod. So if I want to add that, I go to the add-on section. I'm going to go ahead and install this add-on into Google Slides and select my Google account, give it all the permissions that it needs to be able to run. It may take a few minutes the first time to get started because it is trying to access your Gmail, your Carrollwood Day School account. That way in the future you'll be able to just pull this up. So here we go, I have it. Now if I go up to my add-ons here and then I select the Nearpod, I can open it, and it's going to open a box to the right where it's going to allow me now within these slides to add Nearpod features such as audio, video. I can add my questioning now within this, and this is all going to save to Nearpod and provide a code that will allow me to share out to students. So if I want to add a quiz after a specific slide, if I want to, there's even 3D assets. So if you want to give your students kind of an image of something that doesn't require the glasses, it's more like a panoramic, like a draggable 3D image. I'm not going to be able to find anything for finance, I don't believe, so let me just pick something random here. So if I wanted to show my students in the middle of this presentation and allow them to click and drag around an image of a solar panel, I could insert that here. And then when I want to click Save and go to Nearpod, so that's going to do is it's going to import that Google Slides into my Nearpod. I'm probably going to have to sign in again here. And once I have that, it's going to insert that 3D image. This would also be the same thing for if I wanted to add a question, open-ended question, or anything like that. So now if I preview this, just like my students would be viewing when they're going through this presentation, there is now a 3D picture of a solar panel. Not sure how that would work for them, but this would be good, for history lessons if you wanted to take a second for them to have them look around a Coliseum or something like that. You could insert one of these for them. And the best part about all of this is there's no need for the students to leave Nearpod. Everything is housed in Nearpod. So if I want to include a video from YouTube, if I want to include a 3D picture, if I want to include a web page, everything is integrated within Nearpod. So the student, once they're in, they put in the code, they stay within that Nearpod environment until they're done with the lesson. So it just works really well. They don't have to click and move in and out of different resources. They're just in one specific resource. So this is basically the Nearpod. This is the library, as you can see. And here's how I can do this. Now let's say I wanted to create a completely new presentation from a PowerPoint. With Nearpod, you can use their presentation software. It's not the most perfect, so I recommend using PowerPoint or Keynote or something that you're already comfortable with. You can upload PowerPoints. So if you come here and I grab this PowerPoint, I will be able to insert a PowerPoint, and then Nearpod will separate it out into the individual slides, just like in Google Slides, and then I'll be able to insert any Nearpod content that I want, whether it be questions, videos, audio, anything along those lines. So it may take a few minutes depending on how many slides your presentation is, but PowerPoint works perfectly well. And then I can subtract slides, add additional slides. It just works easier if you're used to using these presentation software. Like I said, Nearpod has their own, and you can add slides using Nearpod. Some of the formatting isn't perfect, and they're still working the kinks out on that. So I would recommend using something you're comfortable with. If you do use Keynote, you're going to have to export the Keynote as a PowerPoint and then import it within there. And then you'd be able to import it as a PowerPoint and edit it. So unfortunately, you can't upload Keynote files directly into Nearpod as of this time. So once you have your share codes, this is really all you're giving your students. And this has been using Nearpod to provide lessons for your students.